Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the final round of the RingFreaks Championship. As usual, the track hasn't changed. It's the Nordschleife circuit for all the 6 races that we had, well, all the 5 races that we have, and it didn't change for the 6th one. The driven vehicles are the BMW M3 E30 Gr.A from the year 92, meaning we should have a little bit more chaotic race than usual. Well, of course, we have to wait a little bit and see how it goes. Some reference from the drivers driving here is that those old slick tires are getting worn, and after 2 laps, well, all those tires are almost gone. The columns are in color yellow, meaning that the tires are off. Though, due to the nature of the tires, due to the grip that they produce, these old slick tires love a little bit bigger slip angle, meaning that the car drive more sideways than the modern slick tires, so the drop-off of those tires isn't felt that much. But of course, we'll see how it will stand after the 2 races that awaits of us. So the qualifying session is coming to an end. Jan Nimz should be the first driver who will cross the line to register sometime, and Jan Nimz is the driver who is fighting for the win of this championship, and he was always strong, always fast throughout all of the races, but not everything went smooth, because we have 2 races, and the second race sees a top 10 reverse grid order, and then in the second race there are some chaotic moments, and it didn't always play out to the hands of Jan Nimz. That's why he's currently only P3 in the championship standings. Of course, we have the rule that you can have 1 drop-off round, and 9 minutes 9 seconds is the provisional pole position lap time by Jan Nimz, while we still have to wait for other drivers to cross the line. Stravinska's second at the moment. Let's take a quick look at the championship standings as they are after 5 completed rounds. As you can see, Eliseo Bender is currently in the lead with 206 points. He has 50 kilograms of added weight. Mangano is currently second, 200 points. Jan Nimz only third with 182 points. But Jan Nimz definitely had a couple of bad races, and 1 race definitely to forget. You can see that he was mostly successful because he has 60 kilograms of added weight, so the heaviest car on the grid. Paulius Limanskas 4th, Matas Mendelis 5th, Justinas Saldukas 6th, and Tomaszewicz is 7th, so there will be definitely battles between drivers to try and figure out who will come out on top. Matas Mendelis still on the racetrack. We have all the main participants, except I don't see Mangano on the grid this evening, so maybe he thinks that he completed 5 races and reached the best goals that he could. Maybe due to personal reasons, some drivers don't start in this particular event. We have 16 drivers in total, getting ready for those 2 final races, and we hope that we will see some phenomenal racing action. Eliseo Bender setting a lap time while of 2nd place at this moment. We have Matas Mendelis, who should cross the line quite soon. Justinas Saldukas is a little bit further back. Maybe he wants the best conditions for his flying lap, because you know that the track is constantly evolving. Matas Mendelis trying a little bit too aggressive into the final chicane. I think he lost a little bit of time there, but of course the lap is quite long, a little bit more than, well, maybe it's not more than 25 kilometers, because the full GP circuit is connected, so 9 minutes 11. And the track has roughly 170 corners, so it's still quite a lot of places for the drivers to make mistakes. So Paulius Limanskas is in the pit lane, meaning that he will not finish his flying lap time, and he's still in the battle to finish the championship in top 5 places, where prizes are being rewarded. Justinas Saldukas also flying into the final chicane, trying to use all the speed and the momentum that he has. Maybe he has something in his pocket to show the competitors, and he crosses the line, and there's no time, because it means that Justinas Saldukas was not within the boundaries of track limits. That's why his lap time is not calculated. Let's take a quick look at the qualifying session results. 16 drivers are present. Jan Nimz took the pole position from Matas Mendelis and Eliseo Bender. Matas Mendelis has the lightest car on the grid from the top 3 drivers, and he might have something to offer in the racing action for Jan Nimz. Stravinskas 4th, Franke 5th, Rahmanian 6th, Ivo 7th, Varg 8th, Przybilka 9th, Klimanskas 10th, and of course all the remaining drivers have no valid lap times. So Leo Bryan 11th, Poshibal 12th, Hoven 13th, Halonen 14th, Saldukas 15th, and Eining is 16th. The results differ slightly from the ones we've seen on our Assetto Corsa timing screens. So let's get ready for some racing action. 2 laps and then 2 more after the first race finishes. A lot of old school cars on the grid. Jan Nimz with a beautiful blue and yellow livery out in front, getting ready for some good racing action. The starting procedure is one of the most important ones, and of course Jan Nimz will be concentrating to have a decent jump from the standing position to try and defend from Matas Mendelis and Eliseo Bender in the background. Some drivers are jumping into the car at the final moment. The starting procedure is on, all lights are on, and away we go into the first race. Good launch by Matas Mendelis. Jan Nimz had a good reaction time, and he will of course jump to defend off from his rival, driving from behind, approaching turn number 1, which is basically a chicane. Jan Nimz covers off the inside line and closes the door, so nothing changes there. We have a little bit more action behind. That's Stravinskas trying to defend the 5th place at this moment. He dropped 1 after the start. What about our faster drivers? Justinas Saldukas P11, Klimanskas battling Halonen, the driver from Finland. Justinas Saldukas tries to take the outside line while we're still racing on the GP part of the circuit, and Justinas knows that he needs to make that action as quick as possible, because later it's going to be a little bit harder. We have a spinner in front, and it's hard to say who it was. I think it was Stravinskas because he's losing positions. We have Rahmanian who suffered a little bit more from this situation, and there's Przybilka who is at the very back of the pack. More action on the racetrack. As I've mentioned at the beginning, we might see more drama and more chaos in this race, because, well, these BMWs, even though they have a slightly bigger slip angle than the drivers are used to, but you have to give yourself quite a few practice lap times to keep that car on the racetrack while it's going sideways and still counting as it has grip. So that might be an option for the drivers to have in mind if they want to go quick, and it's a little bit harder to achieve while you're racing in a group, especially after this chaotic qualifying session where we have seen faster drivers failing to qualify for a valid lap time. I think that's Paulius Klimanskas running on the high curb, and he was running sideways. Good thing that these slick tires allow the drivers to drive a little bit longer sideways than driving straight. Klimanskas settling in P8, right behind Justinas Saldukas. We have Ivo running 6th, O'Brien 5th, Franke currently 4th, and there's a small battle between Bender and Mendelis. The gap is of course already 1 second, so I think Matas Mendelis has a slight pace advantage and of course a weight advantage against Eliseo Bender, who is driving a vehicle that has 50 kilograms of ballast added to the car. Regarding the rules of this championship, this is the RingFreaks Championship final race on the same circuit with different machinery, and Justinas Saldukas is trying to use the momentum and is going for a move on Ivo, choosing the outside line, approaching Arenberg corner, and Justin Soldukas makes that move complete. So one more move done, and I think that's Stravinskas off the racetrack, driving sideways. He was battling Halonen, and we've seen in the background Stravinskas going sideways, and he is now down in P11. He started way high in the top 10 places. And to be more exact, Stravinskas started 4th. Of course, I think that's because a lot of the drivers didn't have a valid completed lap time. Someone's going slow, at least that's what I'm hearing in my headphones. And slowly, quietly, the guys are settling behind each other. The gaps are opening up, and no wonder in these BMWs, well, I'm pretty sure you have to have quite a lot of practice to be right on the edge of this machinery, so that's why we might see some bigger gaps between the drivers than it was in the BMW 235 vehicles. So 2 weeks ago it was quite an intense race, and I think the final race will be a little bit different than what we've seen in the race 2 weeks ago. And it's a little bit more about surviving and avoiding mistakes. It's pretty easy to make a mistake in these vehicles because, well, if you want to drive fast, you have to be on the edge, and sometimes the edge of these BMWs is a little bit further than it is in the modern vehicles. O'Brien making a mistake, and so Lucas is sitting right behind O'Brien, and that's what he wants to see. The cars in front slide a little bit more than they should. On board with Justinas, who started at the back of the grid. Well, not exactly at the back, but he was one of the drivers who didn't put in a valid lap. And Justin Soldukas is going to be 6th in the championship standings. He knows that he needs to finish this race as good as possible, and he's in good position at this moment because he's behind 2 drivers that are fighting each other, so it's not the best position, but still he is behind 2 cars that are not going as fast as they would like to because they are fighting. And that's what Justinas Soldukas is aiming for, to try and wait those cars to lose momentum. And now he was able to go around Franke up to P5. Mendel is 2.1 seconds behind, and Nimz Bender already 2.5 seconds behind Mendel. O'Brien even further, and Justinas Soldukas is the car that is trying to chase down the 3 leaders. And he's already up to P5. Halonen right behind Ivo, but our Lithuanian driver, Povilas Klimanskas. I'm sure I've mentioned this a couple of times already in the previous races, but Povilas Klimanskas knows this track in and out, and not from the virtual environment. He was working as a driving instructor on the real circuit, so he knows the best lines, but maybe it's not the easiest way to replicate them on the virtual Nordschleife circuit in Assetto Corsa title, especially in the E30 BMW, which is a DTM car from the past. And it's really beautiful to see how the drivers are dancing around the corners. You have to kind of live with that the car is going slightly sideways. Halonen going on Ivo, so Halonen up to P7 now. We see that there's some action out in front. I think that's O'Brien and Franke battling, while Justin Soldukas is already up to P4, so O'Brien made a small mistake, or maybe there was some contacts when he was battling Justin Soldukas, and we're still roughly midways through lap 1. Povilas Klimanskas finally on the back end of Ivo, but this track this section is not that wide, and the drivers will have to use all the momentum that they have to try and overtake their rivals, and that's not what's happening for Povilas Klimanskas, but it's nice to see that we have roughly 2 battles on the racetrack right now, so it's a 3-car battle for P5, and O'Brien running a little bit wide. That's a good chance for Franke just before the small carousel, so we are about to exit on the longest Döttinger Höhe straight. These old vehicles are not so aerodynamically efficient, so it might not produce a really big slipstream, but let's ride on board with Thomas Hallonen and see how all that works out on this straight. Well, the slipstream works. Hallonen did have a good exit, and he's already side by side with Franke. Franke is trying to slot behind Thomas Hallonen and use that slipstream. Oh, and it really works, so I was my mistake saying that these cars are not aerodynamically effective, because the slipstream really works, and I think Franke went on that move a little bit too early, and that's why he has to lift off before the final chicane to slot behind Thomas Hallonen. Polas Kumanskas managed to overtake Ivo, so he's up to P8. Justian Staldukas 2 seconds behind Eliseo Bender, and I think this is the next battle that we should focus on, because I think Justian Staldukas might be slightly faster, and looking at the gap, it's always constantly reducing. Bender already 5 seconds behind Matas Mendelis. So 2 leaders having a clear pace advantage. Povilas Klimanskas is not able to slow down that BMW into turn 2 at the right time, and he lost quite a lot of time. Still stays in front of Ivo. And Tomas Stravinskas joining this battle to try and get back into the top 10 places. This is the final lap of the first race. Of course, there's still plenty of kilometers left to complete, and Stravinskas going on Ivo in the GP part of the circuit. Beautiful driving, and he should take that inner position, inner line, and of course he's covering off any future moves that might have come from Ivo. It didn't happen, and Stravinskas up to P9, leading Ivo with the provisional pole position for race number 2. Rahmanian still in the contention to take that first starting place. And of course it's really important to have a good starting position for all of the races, because we often see that the drivers when they start in the back spots involve in some battles and lose precious time, and that's why the slower drivers that start from the front of the grid in the second race have a good chance of winning. So the drivers that are currently in the battle for the lower top 10 positions should be really careful not to lose that, and already start thinking about the second race. Nice to see some battles building up on the racetrack. Armani gaining on Ivo, so it looks like Ivo maybe he made a mistake with the setup that he chose for this race, because it doesn't look that his race pace is consistent, and maybe he's just making some mistakes, and it's not that easy to get into the rhythm in this vehicle. And of course, while he's being surrounded by his rivals, he doesn't have that clear line, and well, things are not looking good at this moment for Ivo, but he should try his best to stay in front of Rahmanian. Otherwise he will not start first, he will start 11th. If you finish outside the top 10s, your positions stay the same for the second race, and you can see how the car tends to go off the hands of the drivers, and that's not good news for Ivo, but really good news for Rahmanian, because he has the chance to take that inside line down this straight approaching Arenberg corner. Rahmanian up to provisional pole position already. Ivo really struggling, and he's just going backwards with almost every corner now. He has a 13 seconds advantage against Einiges, and he can relax a little bit, and he has to relax a little bit and try to gather up the pace, because now he's risking to start the second race from the exact position that he's at right now. Justynas Soldukas started from the back of the grid. Well, at least the World Series platform says that he started 15th. I think he started a little bit higher. And he's up to P4 right now, and with good chances to finish the first race in position number 3. Almost in the middle of the second lap. What Justynas Soldukas needs to do right now, just keep the pressure on the shoulders of Eliseo Bender and try to, well, at least stay as close as he can and avoid any possible mistakes. Klimanskas 0.7 seconds behind Franke, so a couple of battles on the racetrack right now, at least between two couples of vehicles. Mark is dropping places, and I think he's standing still on the racetrack. Yeah, and he's about to get moving. He was right on the tail of Einingius, but that's already lost. Klimanskas 0.8 of a second behind Franke, and Soldukas right on the tail of Eliseo Bender. Let's take a quick look at how the slipstream is effective in these old DTM vehicles. And it's a really good thing to try and stay right on the back of your rival, side by side. Running a little bit on the grass. Good thing Justynas Soldukas was able to keep the car on the tarmac without spinning out. He now has to do some defensive work. Eliseo Bender is fast, and we know that he can be really racy, if you can call the driver. In such a manner, and Eliseo Bender is back in front again, and under braking just before the carousel corner. Eliseo Bender gets back and slots back into P3, but I'm not sure if this is a good decision. Of course, on the racetrack you want to stay ahead of your rival, but we know that there's a long straight at the end of this lap, and well, when having such a slipstream, a lot of things can go wrong for the driver who is right in front of his rival, but it looks like Justynas Soldukas just didn't nail this section. He dropped back to 0.7 seconds behind Bender. So beautiful battles on the racetrack. Klimanskas still on the tail of Franke, and Halonen is looking to finish this race in top 5 places because he caught up with Lee O'Brien, driver from UK, and everyone is willing to finish as high as possible in the championship standings because nice prizes await for the winners. There will be vouchers given for the drivers to come to the Nordschleife circuit and drive around it with the RingFreaks vehicles, so this is definitely a prize worth battling for, and Justynas Soldukas is currently outside the top 5 places in the championship standings, so he definitely needs to finish as high as possible, and I'm pretty sure Justynas Soldukas had a couple of bad races, so even if he finishes 4th or 3rd in this race, he should get quite a lot of championship points to allow himself to move a couple of places in the overall standings. So Justynas Soldukas maybe trying to play safe. Of course, he wants to stay as close as possible to Eliseo Bender when the drivers will hit the Göttinger Höhe straight, which is one of the longest straights on any circuit out there, and well, the slipstream should do its job, but I think it's really possible to lose the to make those 2 moves to gain the position at the beginning of the straight, and then you risk to lose it again to the driver who's right behind because the straight is long, and it's possible for the driver to just get back in front. So off on the Göttinger Höhe straight, Nimz still in the lead, Matas Mendel is second, but we have a battle for position number 3, and you can see how fast Justynas Soldukas was able to overtake Eliseo Bender. Now he has to think something clever, and he's just thinking what line he should defend Eliseo Bender right on the tail, and he's going for that move before the slide kink, and I think Eliseo Bender will enjoy P3 for the first race, and he's back in front. Klimanskas is up to P7. Oh, and Franke lost control, and I'm not sure if it's on his own, because Justinas Soldukas was really close, and that's not what Eliseo Bender wants to see. And then there comes that's Klimanskas and Franke, and we have a huge crash at the end of the first race, and that's more bad news for Bender. And that was, yeah, I think that was Klimanskas and Franke, but both of the drivers survived. So Jan Nimz takes the checker flag, Matas Mendelis finishes second, Lukas third, but I'm not sure if it wasn't his fault for all the problems of Bender. O'Brien fourth, Klimanskas fifth, Stravinskas seventh, I believe. Franke seventh, Stravinskas eighth, Bender ninth, and Ivo finished 10th, 11th. So Rahmanian took the pole position for the second race, and there we go. This was a chaotic finish for the first race of the final round in the RingFreaks Championship. Eliseo Bender was battling for P3, and well, not sure how those things went wrong. We don't have a replay system, but I think that well, they were really close with Justinas Soldukas, and maybe there was something between those two drivers. We will find that out at the not at the end, but after the race is finished, while the stewards will take a good look at what happened on the circuit. There we have the livery, the beautiful livery of Jan Nimz, and well, you can see the track map on his roof, so he knows this track really well. Jan Nimz is a driver from Germany, so I'm pretty sure he went to Nordschleife to practice some real laps, and he's the driver who can win this championship. Of course, he was third while entered this race, but he did a decent job by winning the pole position and winning the first race, and now the second race awaits. Well, there's the chance for things to go wrong. I think we'll have a short break. So let's take a quick look at the race 1 results on our screens. Jan Nimz took the win with the fastest lap time of 9 minutes and 10 seconds. Matas Mendelis finished second. Justinas Soldukas third. 0 incident points, so maybe he didn't have a contact with Eliseo Bender, not sure, because, well, the system counts all the contacts and awards the drivers with incident points, so seeing 0 incident points by the name of Justinas Soldukas might suggest that maybe there was no contact between the two drivers. O'Brien finished 4th, Halonen 5th, Klimanskas 6th, Franke 7th, Stravinskas 8th, Bender 9th, Rahmanian took the pole position for the second race, Ivo 11th, Poshibal 12th, Eining is 13th, Hoven 14th, Prisbilka 15th, and Varg finished 16th with some sort of troubles. video by Overpass never gets old and never gets boring. I enjoy it every time I see. I hope you do too. The driver's willing to have a short break, and they need to have a fresh breath of air after racing like this. It's not the easiest task to drive these old BMWs on the Nordschleife circuit, even though that might look not that easy. But now the drivers are eager to start racing, and well, let's hope that it will happen shortly. Otherwise we might have to wait a little bit longer while these cars get launched again. But now we have the chance to take a quick look at how the livery of the fastest driver on the virtual track looks like. I'm not sure if there's anyone having a custom livery. Of course, the liveries by RingFreaks always look fascinating. If you go to the Nordschleife circuit and see these yellow, grayish, white cars running around, you can be sure these cars belong to the RingFreaks guys. You can go and talk to them, and well, maybe you can tell them that you were looking and watching all the races of the RingFreaks Championship on the World Sim Series platform, and they might offer you a discount. Of course, don't count on my word, but it never hurts to try. Still waiting on a restart, and I think we should wait a little bit longer. Beautiful old livery, camel racing, which you couldn't see in the modern days. Thankfully there are some virtual racing to see those old school liveries still running around the circuit. Another old school livery from the past. This is the BMW that used to race around the real circuits in the past. FINA. And of course this vehicle belongs to Varg. I think we have to there we go, finally the restart happened, and let's join the first race 10th place winner, who is standing at the front of the pack. Alessio Bender will have a good chance in the second race, and I think Alessio Bender had a really bad finish to the first race, but now kind of having a good chance to win this second race. He needs to make a really good start. I'm not sure why the camera is jumping around now. I'm sure Rahmanian having some connection issues, I believe, because he's not standing still on the starting grid. Hopefully that will not make problems for the other drivers starting behind. So we will about to find that out. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the final race of the RingFreaks Championship on the World Sim Series platform. We are racing in the BMW E30 Gr.A 92 DTM cars. The lights are out and away we go. Good start by Bender. Rahmanian kind of missed it, but still having good traction, and all the pack from behind are just squeezing around 4 wide into corner number 1, and that's actually almost 5 wide. I think Franke took the lead by all the competitors. Klimanskas up to P2. Halonen having a good start. What about Jan Nimz? He's 7th, and he's, as usual, he tries to be a little bit careful in the second race, but he didn't have a good start also. So different starting by the drivers, and I think some of them had some good practice for starts and some did not, because, well, some drivers were just jumping from the grid on board with our current race leader, and Alessio Bender is already behind Justin Soldukas, and that's not good, and that's not what he wanted to see. So he had a good chance to have a good finish for the second race, but it's not happening. Matas Mendel is still stuck behind Nimz, and I think he will try and follow behind. Will follow through the grid, running behind Jan Nimz. These are the 2 fastest cars from the first race. Of course, Lucas was pretty fast, but he started from the back of the pack, and well, didn't have a good chance to have clean race. Now he's up to P5 behind Stravinskas, and he needs to move quick because Jan Nimz is only one car behind. Alizeo Bender is 6th, so we have some fast cars running behind each other and mixed with some slightly slower drivers. Povilas Klimanskas going for a move, and he's up to P1. So good driving by Povilas Klimanskas, and we've seen in this championship that the first race is not always clean and not always good as Povilas Klimanskas would want to, but the second race, well, he's usually using the advantage of starting further up in the grid. And will that be the second time when Povilas Klimanskas will try to succeed? He won already once while starting from the front of the grid, and he wants to win it again. Matas Mendel is still 8th, still running behind Jan Nimz, and Alizeo Bender is not the slowest car before Jan Nimz. Of course, he was slower, much slower, and his vehicle is not the lightest one. 50 kilograms added to the total weight of that vehicle. Jan Nimz has 10 kilograms more, 60 in total. Matas Mendel is the lightest car of these three drivers. Alizeo Bender, by the way, is currently the championship leader, but well, having a dreadful first race might mean that Alizeo Bender will not have a chance to finish off this race, this championship in the first place. We don't have Mangano racing anymore. Mangano has 200 points in total, and he will not move any position up in the championship. The biggest mover might be Jan Nimz. I'm pretty sure that's what he's aiming for. That's why he's a little bit now. He's going on a move up to P6, running side by side in a dangerous situation. He needs to trust the driver that he's racing to not make any mistakes. Still side by side into the Arenberg corner, which is a hairpin. Stravinskas, Soldukas, and Franke running side by side. Well, actually, Soldukas is still sitting behind. Jan Nimz made that move done, and Franke dropping to P4. Soldukas up. Franke dropping to P5, Soldukas up to P4 right behind Stravinskas. So Soldukas is the car that might be aiming for a win. Of course, all of them have to be faster than this blue-yellow BMW. Jan Nimz up to P6, and he's looking cool. And that doesn't mean that he's too careful. He's going for any possible move, and he's not hesitating. Justin Soldukas up to P3. Now he slots behind a couple of faster cars. He's already 1 second behind Thomas Howland and almost 3 seconds behind Povilas Klimanskas. Jan Nimz has to be careful. He needs any position except the last ones. He doesn't want to waste too long sitting behind those slower drivers because, of course, there's always threat from behind. Matas Mendel's got stuck behind Bender and Franke, so Jan Nimz already up to P5. Mendel is won those 2 positions after the start, and he's kind of settled in. Of course, Matas Mendel wants to finish higher in the second place than P8. He needs those points to stay in the top 5 of the championship, and he's doing the best that he can. Soldukas really fast, gaining really fast on Thomas Howland, and only 0.5 second and only 2.2 seconds behind Povilas Klimanskas, the race leader. Jan Nimz right on the tail of Stravinskas, and I'm pretty sure it's not going to be a hard task for Jan Nimz to overtake Stravinskas. Matas Mendel is going up to P7, sitting behind Alizeo Bender. Well, he was quite faster than Alizeo in the first race, so he should take that win. Povilas Klimanskas made a mistake, and he's being attacked by Thomas Halonen, so Povilas Klimanskas couldn't drive a clean lap. So it's not the easiest task in these BMWs, so he gives the first position to Thomas Halonen at this moment, slots down behind him. Soldukas right on the tail, and Nimz, I think Jan Nimz made a mistake because he's 0.9 of a second behind Stravinskas, so that's just a proof that these vehicles are really hard driven around the Nordschleife circuit. Oh, beautiful move by Matas Mendel. Alizeo Bender going a little bit wide. Still the move is not done, and well, Matas Mendel has to brake and sit behind Eliseo Bender to take that concrete part on the carousel corner. Just to have equal grip. And it's already P4. I think Stravinskas made a mistake while we were looking at Matas Mendelis and Bender, so Matas Mendelis didn't make that move. Still Lucas right on the tail of Pavlos Klimanskas, and he wants to move quick because Nimz already 1.7 seconds behind Justinas, so he knows that well, he needs to make that move. Otherwise, the fastest German will be right on his tail, and it's not going to be the easiest task to complete that maneuver. Klimanskas running a little bit wide, but he knows the track in and out, so he knows which lines he needs to take to try and stay in front of his rival. But now he's going wide and losing traction, and there was no place to go for Justinas Soldukas, and there is nothing you can do. Justinas Soldukas had to back out, and both of the drivers losing a lot of time, so this is at least the second mistake that we've seen made by Pavlos Klimanskas in the second race, and it's not playing good not only for Pavlos Klimanskas but also for his rivals. But there's nothing Pavlos Klimanskas can do just to try and defend the position that he's at. Thankfully, the drivers are driving on the Nordschleife circuit, and it's an easy task. Even after such a mistake, he just tried to make his car as wide as possible, so he forced Justinas Soldukas to use his brakes. Justinas Soldukas running sideways, as mentioned before. These tires love a slightly bigger slip angle than the modern tires. It's a beautiful car control by the drivers, but well, running all over the track is not the fastest line, and you can see how much faster Nimz is than his rivals when he's driving calm and smooth. Klimanskas making another mistake, still making his car as wide as possible, and we will enter the Döttinger Höhe with 3 cars running behind each other, and I think Nimz will have a good run on Justinas Soldukas, and well, just because he's only 0.2 of a second behind Justinas, Justinas might just don't have enough of the straight to try and go back, and I'm pretty sure Nimz will try and make that move, but the slipstream by Pavlos Klimanskas works also fabulous, and now Justinas Soldukas is going for a move. What about Jan Nimz? Will he back out? Because, well, it's kind of a dangerous situation, and no, Jan Nimz is not backing off, and he's going for a 2-car move on one straight, and I think at this moment that might work brilliantly. Justinas Soldukas all over the track, trying to stay as clean as possible, so slight door-to-door banging in these vehicles, but what a move by Jan Nimz. He's already up to P2, and well, this is your championship deciding race, and if Jan Nimz will manage to keep the car on the track and of course in front of his rivals, well, he's having good chances to finish this race in P1. Of course, in the GP circuit, Justinas Soldukas had a better run out of the final corner. Pavlos Klimanskas making a mistake. Was that deep in the corner? It's Justinas Soldukas. So Justinas Soldukas made a big mistake into the second corner, and he dropped behind Matas Mendelis, and he will create lots of troubles and lots of difficult situations. And while driving sideways, he's still battling Matas Mendelis. So just trying to bump his way through. That's Rahmanian who joined this battle behind the 2 Lithuanians. Let's drive on board with Rahmanian and see who will come out in front. Justinas Soldukas making that move and puts his car sideways. Stravinskas only 0.2 of a second behind Klimanskas, battling for P3. So Stravinskas started 4th in the first race, and he had a difficult race, but it looks like his second race, and especially the second lap, started quite nicely. Soldukas right on the tail of Bender. What about Matas Mendelis? What a move! And Justinas Soldukas didn't expect that. Beautiful driving by the drivers, of course. They are not avoiding small contacts, and it's difficult to avoid those bumps in the vehicle that is often driven more sideways than on full grip. So Matas Mendelis back into P6, and well, just thank you guys, but I need to battle my way through Eliseo Bender, which he was battling in race 1, and someone's off the track, and I think that's Rahmanian. I think there was a contact between Rahmanian and Lucas, oh, crossing the track, and thankfully all the drivers have already passed that part of the circuit, so the drivers managed to avoid contacts, and I think there was a contact between Rahmanian and Sol Lucas, because Sol Lucas dropped another 2 places and down to P9, so awful start of the second race for Justinas Sol Lucas, and he will still try his best to fight his way up in the standings. Thomas Howland in the meantime still running first, only 0.9 of a second in front of Jan Nimz, and I'm pretty sure Jan Nimz is currently just planning his move, trying to avoid mistakes, to keep those tires as fresh as possible. By the way, as mentioned before, this is the second lap and those tires are already dropping. So while the drivers are in battle positions, in battling situations, they need to focus a little bit more to try and keep that car on the racetrack without sliding around. Matas Mendelis made a small mistake, so he dropped behind Eliseo Bender by 0.6 of a second. Stravinska still keeping up with Povilas Klimanskas. This is the battle for P3. Of course, Stravinskas knows that... Stravinskas up to P3. Klimanskas made a mistake, so I was willing to say that Stravinskas knows that Matas Mendelis and Eliseo Bender were catching up quite fast. He doesn't need to bother about it, because Povilas Klimanskas is not being able to keep that car on the track with all 4 wheels. Well, usually he can, but he's going sideways a little bit too often, which doesn't help the car to go fast. Stravinskas and Klimanskas still running behind. I think I've seen someone in the background trying to make a move. Maybe that was Matas Mendelis. He's only 0.2 of a second behind Eliseo Bender, and definitely Matas Mendelis is faster on pure pace, but while you're stuck behind another driver who is driving identical vehicle, it's not the easiest task to use that speed advantage, and no place left on the racetrack for Matas Mendelis to use that advantage, so he's being shut off. Still running P6. Frank and Sol Lucas, are still behind and still in contention to battle these drivers, because, well, they are not going fast. Matas Mendelis was 2 wheels on the grass. Still Sol Lucas, 0.9 of a second behind Franke. And Jan Nimz, well, maybe he's waiting. He knows that he has a huge gap between himself and Stravinskas, so he doesn't need to rush things. Still a long way to go, and there are a couple of much nicer places to try and make that move done, so I think strategic thinking is already in the back of Jan Nimz's head. With Thomas Howland, the driver from Finland, leading the race. He's definitely fast, sometimes running out of luck, and sometimes just mixing into some battles which sadly end up with contacts. And this is Bender and Mendelis running side by side. Matas Mendelis, the yellow-gray RingFreaks vehicle. Eliseo Bender, the white Finland car. Matas Mendelis couldn't make that move, but it's still not over, because Eliseo Bender has a run, and the slipstream is working magically. Both cars needs to fit on the racetrack. They do. And Eliseo Bender is able to fight off from Matas Mendelis for P5. And Klimanskas, even though he's fast, he doesn't avoid mistakes. Matas Mendelis going to the inside of the corner, and both of the drivers run off the racetrack. A good chance for Justinas Sol Lucas on board with Justinas. Matas Mendelis tries to defend, but I think it's not going to work out, just in front of the carousel. So Matas Mendelis tried his best, and it didn't work out. Now he's down to P7, and that's not what Matas Mendelis wants to see in the final race of the championship, while he's trying to finish as high as possible. He finished second in the first race. Now he's currently 7th, and that's not the best position to finish a race if you want to have a good finishing position in the overall standings. And then still, I think he's playing games, and I think he's not going on Thomas Howland, and actually he doesn't need to overtake Thomas Howland and to take that overall win in this final race to get the biggest amount of points, so maybe he's not willing to risk any chance. And he's just waiting for the longest straight. Stravinska's just made a bigger mistake. He's already 5.6 seconds behind Jan Nimz. So, good race for Nimz and Thomas Halonen up until now, but we have a really beautiful and big battle between Bender, Soldukas and Mendelis, and all of these three drivers are actually battling for the highest places in the overall standings. Alessio Bender was first while entering this race, Mendelis 5th and Justin Soldukas 6th, so that might change. That might change after this race, but I think Alessio Bender has a higher car because he finished 3rd in the first race, and he's currently ahead of his main rivals. And of course, that's not the end. Jan Nimz, by the way, he's in front of Thomas Halonen, so he waited out and made that move safely. What about these three guys, and what story will they write into the books during all these final corners of the Nordschleife circuit? We are definitely approaching the very end, and Justin Soldukas runs a little bit wide, and was that maybe it wasn't a mistake? Maybe that's what Justinas Soldukas was aiming for, because the drivers are now on the Döttinger Höhe straight, and actually it's not over in the battle for P1, because Thomas Halonen is 0.5 seconds behind Jan Nimz. Justinas Soldukas writes off any chance to finish higher up than 7th in this race, unless these two drivers in front will make something bad. Alessio Bender was in this situation once in this race, except it was with Justin Soldukas. What about Matas Mendelis? Matas Mendelis tries to make his car as wide as possible, but well, there's your aerodynamical efficiency, and the slipstream does magic. Justin Soldukas 0.4 of a second behind this battle. Alessio Bender in front. Jan Nimz taking the checker flag. Halonen finishing 2nd. Stravinska's 3rd. Klimanska's 4th. But what about these guys? I think Alessio Bender will finish 5th, while Justinas Soldukas 7th and Matas Mendelis in between these drivers, and that's the way it goes. So Bender 5th, Mendelis 6th, Soldukas 7th, Leo Bryan 8th, Franke 9th, and Rahmanian finishing 10th. Again, as he was in the first race. There is no pole position for finishing 10th in the second race, but still finishing in the top 10 places is a good achievable result. Time to celebrate. Maybe some drivers are disappointed, maybe some drivers are happy. I think it was a really nice race by Alessio Bender. And yeah, damaging these vehicles because they will not be used anymore, not in this race, not this weekend, but not in this championship. So, well, you can do whatever you want with these virtual cars, and have as much fun as you like. So that was it. The final race of the RingFreaks Championship has been completed, and Jan Nimz took all the wins that he possibly could do this evening. Won the pole position, won the first race, and of course he won the second race, and I'm pretty sure he will easily take the first place in the overall standings. Thomas Halonen finished 2nd in the second race, Stravinska's 3rd, Klimanska's 4th, Alessio Bender 5th, Mendelis 6th, Justinas Soldukas 7th after a really hard and long battle, Leo Bryan 8th, Franke 9th, Rahmanian 10th, Ivo 11th, Poshibal 12th, Eining is 13th, Przbilka 14th, Hoven 15th, and Varg finished 16th. This was the final race of the championship. I really hope you enjoyed this one. I was really glad to watch this race together with you. My colleague Gustav Grimbergas is currently in Monaco. He was practicing at the Zandvoort circuit this week, so he should be back next week for the multi-class championship. So we will have more racing ahead of us in this season. The RingFreaks championship is over, and I wish you good night and see you next time.